This man has just been executed for a string of horrific crimes that started with the senseless killing of several innocent victims. His name was Ronald Palmer Heath, and he was put to death by lethal injection at Florida State Prison after more than 3 decades on death row. In this video, we'll dive into his final words, his last meal request, and the brutal acts that sealed his fate in the execution chamber. Like, subscribe, and turn on the notification button to be notified when we publish a new video. Video drops weekly. If you're a lover of creepy true crime stories, true crime documentaries, courtroom dramas, and the rest, you can do well to check our twin channel Mysterious Dark Files for more videos like that. Ronald Palmer Heath was born on July 6, 1961, in the Jacksonville, Florida area. Little is publicly documented about his early childhood, but records indicate he grew up in a family environment that included his mother, with whom he maintained a close emotional bond throughout his life even till his death, often supporting her as she aged and lived alone. He also had a younger brother, Kenneth Heath, who would later become his co-defendant in a capital crime. Heath's life took a tragic and violent turn during his teenage years, marking the beginning of a pattern of criminal behavior that spanned decades. At the age of 16, on December 17, 1977, Heath committed his first known murder in Jacksonville, Duval County, Florida. The victim was 18-year-old Michael Green, someone Heath had only met that day. They hung out for hours, seeming like new friends, but the real reason for the attack remains murky to this day. According to Heath's confession to the police, Green made unwanted sexual advances toward him, prompting Heath to attack. He stabbed Green 23 times, but those wounds weren't immediately deadly. Rather than getting help or running away, Heath loaded the bleeding teen into his car and drove around Jacksonville's streets for over an hour, as if paralyzed by his own actions. Finally, he stopped, dragged Green out, and stabbed him again repeatedly. In a desperate attempt to cover it up, Heath tried to burn the car with Green still in it, but the victim escaped the fire. Undeterred, Heath chased him down, delivered more stabs, and in a chilling finale, bludgeoned him to death using a heavy tree branch. Dragged him back to the car, he then went ahead to set Green's car on fire in an attempt to destroy evidence. The extreme violence from such a young perpetrator stunned everyone in the courtroom. Heath entered a guilty plea to second-degree murder and was only 16 but received a 30-year prison sentence in 1978. As a juvenile offender placed in adult facilities, Heath endured severe trauma during his incarceration. He was subjected to repeated violence, including multiple sexual assault and other involving gang assaults, which left him deeply scarred and affected his psychological development. These experiences occurred during his critical adolescent years, contributing to long-term emotional and mental health issues. Despite the 30-year sentence, Heath was paroled after serving approximately 10 years and was released in 1988, a choice that would prove deadly down the line. Ronald Heath, then 28-year-old, had barely tasted freedom for 6 months before striking again. In May, Ronald, alongside his 24-year-old brother, Kenneth Heath, the both who had a history of legal troubles, left Jacksonville and headed to Gainesville, where they frequented the Purple Porpoise Lounge, a local dive bar where Ronald had friends working as bartenders. On May 24, 1989, the second night they were there, they met 30-year-old Michael Sheridan, a traveling salesman from Atlanta on a business trip. Sheridan, who was grabbing dinner and drinks at the bar when he met Ronald and Kenneth. He was sociable and struck up a conversation with the brothers, even bought them drinks, and asked if they had marijuana or wanted to smoke. For Ronald, that was all it took. He whispered to Kenneth about luring Sheridan to a remote spot to rob him, and his brother nodded in agreement. The trio left in Kenneth's car, with Ronald behind the wheel, heading to a secluded wooded area in Alachua County south of Gainesville under the pretense of smoking marijuana together. Once there, they stepped out and casually smoked marijuana for a bit, everything seeming relaxed. Until Ronald gave the signal, a finger gun gesture asking if Kenneth had the weapon. Kenneth pulled a handgun on Sheridan, demanding his wallet, gold jewelry, and possessions. When Sheridan resisted and refused to comply, Kenneth was ordered by Ronald to shoot Sheridan once in the chest. Sheridan fell to the ground, writhing in agony, desperately trying to hand over his belongings. As Sheridan began emptying his pockets, Ronald kicked him repeatedly and demanded his bracelet. When Sheridan couldn't produce it quickly enough, Ronald grew impatient. He approached the dying man, kicked him while he was down, and pulled out a hunting knife. Stabbed him on the neck, then tried to slash Sheridan's throat, but the blade was too blunt to finish it. Ronald then ordered Kenneth to finish the job, and Kenneth shot Sheridan twice in the head. The brothers dumped Sheridan's body in the woods, wiped the knife clean, returned to the bar to steal items from his rental car, and set the car on fire with the knife inside to eliminate evidence. They used Sheridan's credit cards the next day to make purchases at the Oaks Mall in Gainesville, forging receipts with Kenneth's signature. Sheridan's decomposed body was discovered on May 30, 1989, already in an advanced stage of decomposition. The autopsy revealed death occurred 3 to 10 days prior, caused by 3 gunshots and a severe neck stab wound. Just 2 days later, on May 26, 1989, Heath committed another first-degree murder. The shooting death of 25-year-old Anthony Hammett during a robbery in the Jacksonville area. They persuaded him to leave with them, but Anthony declined when he realized they wanted to rob him. He was shot once in the back and left for dead. Ronald Heath faced charges for Hammett's murder, but they were dropped when Kenneth refused to testify, citing death threats. This left the case unresolved and the Hammett family denied closure. Several weeks after the Sheridan murder, a rookie error by the brothers cracked the case wide open. They tried using one of Sheridan's stolen credit cards for a car stereo purchase, but it was declined, flagging authorities. From there, the Gainesville Police Department and Alachua County Sheriff's Office traced card activity at Oaks Mall, piecing together the killer's post-murder path. Weeks later, Ronald was arrested at his trailer home in Douglas, Georgia, where he lived with his girlfriend. Police recovered clothing bought with the cards and Sheridan's watch during the search. Kenneth was also arrested and charged. In 1990, he stood trial in Alachua County for the Sheridan murder. Key evidence included Kenneth's testimony against his brother as part of a plea deal. Kenneth admitted to firing the shots but claimed he did so under Ronald's direction and prompting. In exchange, Kenneth pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. But no records show if he's been freed. The jury also heard about Heath's prior 1977 murder conviction and the recent Hammett indictment to establish his dangerousness. Heath was convicted of first-degree murder, armed robbery with a deadly weapon, conspiracy to commit forgery, 7 counts of forgery, and 7 counts of uttering a forgery. The jury recommended the death penalty by a 10-2 vote, and the judge imposed a death sentence, originally for execution in the electric chair, later changed to lethal injection as the new execution method. Heath was 28 at the time of sentencing. Ronald Heath languished on death row for over 35 years, with his lawyers launching numerous appeals to reverse the verdict, challenging the reliability of Kenneth's testimony. The sentencing disparity between the brothers, the non-unanimous jury recommendation, Florida's death penalty protocols, the secret of clemency process, and the impact of his juvenile incarceration on his brain development and maturity. But every one of his appeals was shot down, including the last by the Florida Supreme Court in January 2026. Finally, on January 9, 2026, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed Heath's death warrant, scheduling the execution for February 10, 2026, at 6 p.m. Eastern Time at Florida State Prison near Stark in Bradford County, making it the state's first execution of the year, following a record 19 executions in 2025. Heath, age 64, declined a special final meal, opting instead for the standard prison trays served to all inmates that day. He woke at 5:07 a.m., met with his mother and a friend, but declined a spiritual advisor visit. The execution used lethal injection via a 3-drug cocktail at Florida State Prison. At 5:50 p.m., Heath entered the chamber. 4 lines were set by 6 p.m., and before the drugs were administered, the warden asked if he had any last words. Heath looked up and said, "I'm sorry. That's all I can say. Thank you." The drugs began flowing shortly after. Heath closed his eyes, his breathing slowed, and he showed minimal physical reaction. A medic was summoned about 8 minutes in to check vital signs, and Heath was pronounced dead at 6:12 p.m. This marked the 48th U.S. execution of 2026 up to that point, with Florida leading in prior years. No complications were reported, and the process was described as routine by state officials. Witnesses included Michael Sheridan's siblings, Thomas and Nancy Sheridan, who hailed from upstate New York. They'd advocated tirelessly for decades, writing letters and calling the governor's office to ensure this day came. This wraps up the chilling tale of Ronald Palmer Heath, executed for murdering Michael Sheridan. What are your thoughts on this case? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.